Take your creativity to the next level on Mac and iPad with Apple Creator Studio. For
Hi, everybody. Good evening. Welcome, everybody. And privileged to share the platform with my dear brother here, Dr. Noel Garden, who is the Chief Academic Officer or Chief Academic Officer for Education Solutions International. And on behalf of both of us, I want to welcome everybody to this session that we have planned for you this evening or this morning or earlier in the afternoon. If you're joining us from wherever you're joining us, whatever region, welcome. I am Dr. Dwayne Dice, and I'm the founder and CEO of Education Solutions International, ESI. And wherever you see ESI, you will, of course, see all of us here on the platform as one of a couple of the people from the Caribbean who are trying to make sure that we balance the flow and the forces of education across the region and the world. So welcome everybody wherever you are, even if you are joining us from the US or across the pond in Europe or Africa. Um, I want to welcome specially, very, very special, people who are joining us from across the Caribbean, the Eastern Caribbean and Central America, specifically in Belize. Shout out to our sisters and brothers over there in Belize. And the rest of us from Trinidad and Tobago, Guyana, Dominica, um, St. Lucia, St. Martin, Antigua and Barbuda, and the rest of us from St. Vincent and St. Vincent and the Grenadines and Grenada, of course. And if I miss somebody, so if you want to type it in the chat where you're from, we'll highlight you. So we're gonna get started because we have a few things that we're gonna do with you, with all of us, and we're asking you to make sure that you have the opportunity to unmute your microphones because you're going to be placed in breakout rooms. So as we discuss some of these strategies, some of the approaches that we're using, and by the way, they are research-based approaches to rethinking classroom management. So we coined it, according to Dr. Noel Gordon, connection before correction. So we make sure that we connect with students before we correct them, and that will help alleviate some of the problems and the developmental deficiencies in our students, both socially and academically and psychologically. So very important that we are making sure that we cater to the whole child and we're embedded in restorative practices in our school environment. If you're a school principal, the entire school, if you're a teacher in your immediate environment, which is a classroom, as well as the rest of the school environment. So let me ask Dr. Noel Gordon to greet us for a little bit, and then we jump right into the session we have.
Okay, can you hear me, Dr. Dice?
Loud and clear and
Wonderful,
wonderful. Jinx.
wonderful. So it is a pleasure joining the people around the Caribbean. And we appreciate the fact that you take the time out to engage us. And our philosophy is of such that we don't come to you with a hammer and a nail to fix things. This is a collaboration. We know that educators, you're on the ground, and I've been an administrator for 19 years. I was an administrator for 19 years before I retired, but I always had this level of respect for educators. Those of you are the change agents. You're in the classroom, And sometimes you bring so much insights to the table that if we at the top would listen a little bit more, then we'd sort of make more compelling changes. So we're looking forward for this collaboration today. Thank you, Dr. Dice.
Awesome, awesome, my brother. So two things. One is that you're on Zoom. You stay on Zoom. When we go through our strategies and concepts and so on, we're gonna ask you to join our breakout room. It's automatic. You just join and you participate in the discussion. We're changing up a little bit of our workshop to involve people's voices. So you're going to share, because as Dr. Noel said, it is a collaborative approach. None of us knows every single thing, and so we're sharing and learning so that we build connection. And one other thing is that we also want you to connect with people across the diaspora. So when you get into these breakout rooms, you're going to share and talk about your strategy that you're using in the classroom, as well as what other people are sharing. You're going to take from that as well. The other thing is, if you're on YouTube or YouTube channel right now, if you want to switch over to Zoom, use the link that you signed up with. You register, you get a link. You can come on Zoom so that you can become a part of the live collaboration. If you're on YouTube and you want to stay there, you can stay there, and we will drop in the chat when it's time for us to collaborate in that manner. Now, the last thing is very, very important. If you want a certificate of completion for this is workshop 1 in a 5 workshop series of this connection before correction series, you have to fill out the end of course survey or end of workshop survey right after, close to the end of the workshop. And you provide $5 or more if you want. You're on the richer side of things and you want to give more, but a minimum of $5 donation to the nonprofit using the link that we shared in the registration form, as well as if you want to wait until the end of this, we'll share the link again in the workshop in the chat, either on YouTube or on Zoom. And then, so those are two things. You need to fill out the end of workshop survey, and you need also to donate. If you don't want to do anything like that, then you just participate in the workshop and you walk away, free. And if you think along the line after the workshop is finished and you need a certificate of completion, you ask us out by email, or you look out for one of our email sharings. We share emails all the time with information, and normally we share the workshop and end of course survey link in those for you to fill out. So we have multiple sources of how you get to that certificate of completion for your portfolio when it's time for you to develop your own skills so that you can become a master teacher in the system, whichever Ministry of Education that you're in. Okay. So welcome everybody. So this is the first workshop in a 5 workshop series, and we're going to try and hammer these out over the course of months. Later on, you will get these that are self-paced courses online in our network. So look out for that, and you can do them on your own when the time comes. All right. So what student behavior is trying to tell us? What is it trying to tell us in when we go into the classroom? You can drop in the chat as we go through the next couple of slides. What is the student behavior trying to tell us when you see students behaving in a certain way? What is it trying to tell us? What, based on your experience in the classroom? And you can drop in the chat one word or a phrase. What is student behavior trying to tell us? It could be anything at all. What is it trying to tell us? Attention, Donna says, attention. It's trying to give us attention, like tell us like, hey, you need to pay attention over here. I'm saying something through my action. I'm saying something. What is student behavior trying to tell us? And as you write, I will go over the overarching theme for the entire workshop series. It's when educators shift from controlling behavior to understanding students, classroom management, this is important, becomes a byproduct of connection. And we all know what byproduct is. Byproduct happen before the purpose of what you intend to do. The intention is to connect with students. And as a byproduct, management happen. Management just happen like a culture in there. So we need to tackle that problem of classroom management and twist it into a way of connection, looking at the connection instead of managing the classroom, and let the classroom management becomes a byproduct of that culture that we create in the classroom. And so other people say they're confused. Yes, they are in need of attention and intervention. I like that word, intervention. They need love and validation. Yes, yes, yes. They're seeking love. And in general, of course, they're seeking love. Because remember what scripture tells us about love, that we love is an action word. It's what you do to me as I would do for you. That is love. Do to me as I would do for you. That is literally love that we're embodying in the classroom. So this is our objective for just this workshop. And workshop number one, as you see on your left side of your screen at the top, it says rethinking behavior and classroom management. That's what we're focusing on today, is to rethink behavior and classroom management, understanding the hidden language of student behavior. And we don't want to don't get us wrong here when Dr. Gordon and myself talk about this. We don't want you to, as people say, when we talk so softly about this, and we want you to cuddle the students and so on. There are procedures that, because we have tough love. Dr. Noel and I, when we get into our school environment, we call it be kind and firm. You want to be kind and firm, and you want to allow the students to know you, that you're kind and firm with them. So we're not saying that you should let up all your strategies and free flow of behavioral tendencies that the students will get what they want. No, no. We're saying to you, the way you look at this is in a different mindset. And we want you to connect, to find the zeal and the purpose to connect with students. So let's look at the key nugget in this one. The way we see behavior
Excuse me,
determines.
Dr. Dice, did you put up the slides?
Yes. Is it not showing?
I am not seeing it. Is everybody else seeing it?
Wait, yeah, you should be seeing it. Wait, let me see.
Just confirm with them. If I'm not, that's okay if they're seeing it.
All right, are you seeing it now?
I'm seeing.
I am seeing it.
Okay,
Okay,
wonderful. Go ahead. I'm
Yes,
sorry.
we are.
Sweet, sweet. Okay, so the key nugget for this particular part of it is the way we see behavior determines how we respond to it. It's very, very, very important. How we look at things, or perception of a student behavior, will determine how we react to the student in that manner. So how we're going to approach this is to pause, reflect, and rethink long-held assumptions about what students' behavior mean, and how school have traditionally respond to it. So we're looking at some traditional ways in a little while, and how we're going to approach this in terms of our learning outcome is to identify common assumptions embedded in traditional classroom management models. Recognize that behavior is a form of communication, not merely misconduct. Begin developing a framework for understanding behavior through the lens of student need. And the last one is reflect on personal teaching experiences to identify moments when connection change outcome. So let's talk a little bit about the traditional model of classroom management. Traditionally, you look at the key nuggets up here. The key nugget says compliance-based management prioritizes silence and order over student understanding. That's what it is. We look at how we approach rule-centered classroom, consequence-driven, teacher-directed, reactive. It's reactive, and the deficit-focused approach. Now, in this, the traditional approach is the definition of, for decades, the classroom management in our school system and the settings in our school has been built around a model of control. Like we control things, and we have pains in the back of our necks to run after students and to control every process that happened in the classroom. When I started teaching about 20 years ago, I did not take that approach. I literally look on students as my co-producers in the classroom. And so what I produce, we produce together. If you behave in a certain way that is not in alignment with our I didn't call it school rules. I called it our agreements. And if their behavior is not in agreement with whatever we organize as school rules or agreements, then I will have a conversation with them. So we establish rules, which we call agreement. We monitor compliance, of course, and apply consequences depending on what the students have done in order to determine the consequence that we measure out to them. That is a traditional approach to management of behavior in the classroom. Now, there are shortfalls to this. When you look at controlling every single thing in the classroom, you're looking at students who frequently experience punishment. They begin to disengage in the learning entirely. Over time, they feel like the teachers don't care about me. All they care about is to punish me, and myself that I'm trying to communicate with them, regardless of how they're trying to communicate, whether they know that they're trying to communicate with us or not through their behavior, based on their surrounding, based on their background, we need to determine how we're going to approach that. Now, when you look at compliance focused environments, that creates anxiety and diminish intrinsic motivation. We have to look at the intrinsic motivation that we are influencing in students. Then the third point here under the fall short category, teachers report higher levels of burnout when management strategies focus solely on control. So, as I said earlier, you focus on controlling and controlling, then you have barely little time and energy to focus on teaching and learning. Because my own self is to get the students to stop talking, to get the students to sit and be quiet. The other thing is research. When we look at research and when you dig deeper into this strategy that we're talking about here, is that research shows that punitive discipline disproportionately affects students of color and students with disability. Now, in our Caribbean region, we have majority of our students are colored, or we call them black and brown students. And so we have to look on how we're treating our students, whether boy or girl, or wherever they come from based on their background or identity. We're looking at how we approach behavior, how we influence socio-emotional development in them, and how we influence their growth as individuals. And we have to be careful of how we approach it. So that's why we're talking to you, Dr. Gordon and myself, to see if we can look at it in a different lens. Look at the approach that we're using a different lens. So let's talk about behavior as communication. The core principle of behavior is communication, is what am I saying through my behavior? And the key nugget to this is behavior is communication before it is misconduct. What is behavior saying to us in the classroom? Whether you're from a school where the students are kicking the chairs or doing whatever, what is that behavior saying to us? And if students sit down and be very quiet and feel intimidated, don't want to move because I don't want to get the teacher on my case. What is that behavior saying to us about the students? Every action is a message. The question is whether we are listening. So, look at the communication framework. In K-12 classrooms, students often lack the emotional vocabulary and the neurological development, as well as safe space to verbalize their internal experiences. Behavior becomes like primary language. The primary language, just like a little baby. If they're crying, why are they crying? Because they can't speak. It's the same thing with our students, all the way up to teenagers. When they act a certain way, why are they acting that way? Instead of saying, I'm going to punish the heck out of this one because he slip up, because this one is chatting too much. Why are they behaving that way? Ask yourself the question every single time you see this happen. Now, what behavior might be communicating? And some of us mentioned this in the chat earlier on when we asked. Refusal to work. What is that signaling? Confusion, fear of failure, lack of belonging, or undiagnosed learning challenges. And you can take that to your classroom and deal with it. The other one is outburst or aggression. It may be that they reflect unprocessed trauma. It might be trauma, dysregulation or feeling unheard and or dismissed. They might feel like that, like they're being dismissed. And so the outbursts and the anger and the aggression come out. Withdrawal and disengagement. What does this say about the student? They may communicate depression, anxiety, and sense of invisibility or feeling academically left behind. So how are we going to approach that? The other one is cloning around, which many of us know already. Cloning around in the classroom and being disruptive. What does this tell us about the student? They may be a bid for connection. They want to connect. They want to be relevant. They might want acknowledgement. And especially they want acknowledgement from their peers. They may want to feel relevant among their peers as well. So they act out in that manner. And the last one in the blue here is chronic tardiness or absence. What does this tell us about students? They may be a point at home the home might be unstable. They might live in fear in the classroom environment as well. They might come to school with fear. They might lack perceived sense of belonging. They might feel like that. So we need to, back to the words, connect. We need to connect with the students. So this is the listening posture of the educator. How do we approach this? With a listening posture. Skilled educators approach behavior with curiosity rather than judgment. The question shifts from how do I stop this to what is this student trying to tell me? That's what we need to ask. What is the student trying to tell me? And so the posture does not excuse the behavior. It literally seeks to understand it and as well as well enough to understand it to address the root causes. So that's what we need to change our mindset to. Asking the question, what is this student trying to tell me? Both in their mind and in their body. Their socio-emotional and their cognitive development, as well as their psychological and their social. So what is it trying to tell me? The behavior of the student. Let's talk about something pretty deep here. And we're going to just scratch the surface probably. We're scratching the surface. The iceberg model. The iceberg model of behavior. The nugget here is what you see above the surface, and we know this as educators, what we see above the surface is never the whole story. And this can be applied to culture as well. The culture of behavior, the behavior that we see. The driving forces lie beneath the behavior. And they're much more than the behavior we're seeing on the surface when students behave a certain way. How do we understand this model? The iceberg model is a powerful visual framework for understanding student behavior. Just as only a small fraction of an iceberg is visible above the waterline in the ocean, the observable behavior a teacher could see is only a fraction of what is actually happening for the student. So we need to go below that. Ask ourselves the questions. So above the waterline, we might see this. And these are things that we see. We don't know what's happening. We see these things. Talking out of terms. The students are talking nonstop in class or wherever. Refusal to complete task. Physical altercation with other students like horseplay. Playing around, touching other people, physical like wrestling. Eye control, eye rolling, and hissing of teeth, and other defiance. You have crying as well as emotional flooding or shutting down, not saying anything. And a bunch of things can be at play here in our classroom. And so we need to put on our psychological hat. Go back to the time when we were doing Psychology 101 in school and B.F. Skinner, behavioral approach, and Piaget, and so on and so forth. Vygotsky. Talk about proximity development here, and so on, Put on those thinking hats. Find out in ourselves based on our questions. What is happening below the surface here? Look at our right side of the screen here. Below the waterline, root causes, food insecurity or lack of sleep at home, unprocessed grief, loss or trauma, social conflict or bullying from peers, unstable housing or family disruption, undiagnosed learning disabilities, or sensory needs. And the last one is cultural disconnect between home and school environment. A culture that doesn't see the need for educational growth or focus in a class because they are preoccupied in their minds because something is happening to put a block in their social emotional development and their cognitive focus on their learning. So we need to ask the question, what does the behavior tell us about the student? That's where we need to settle it. And we need a team to deal with this. So here's an application for the teacher and whoever is in charge in the school. Before addressing the behavior above the waterline that you can see and observe, effective educators ask, what might be happening below? This doesn't mean excusing harmful behavior. It means understanding it well enough to actually help the student. Because remember, we're about restorative practices in students, not punitive measures, restorative practices. So let's talk about some of the common signals in our classroom. And we put them in bands here. So you have the nugget, of course. The key nugget here is pattern connection is a professional skill. So when you look at patterns in behavior of students over a period of months or years, we see something happening. Learning to read behavioral signals is as critical as learning to read academic behavior. Now, if you can put in the chat, how many of us have literally documented our behavior of students year after year, month after year? If you document behavioral changes in students, not just academic behavior, drop it in the chat. Say, yes, I have done this. And tell us, what part of behavior have you documented? And let me see what you're coming up with and sharing. How have you document behavior data in your classroom? Yes or no? Have you document students' behavior? And what aspect of it have you document? Just one or two things, not a whole paragraph, just a phrase. Have you documented yes or no? And if you do, what part of student behavior have you documented in your time right now as an educator? All right, so while you're doing that in the chat, let's talk about behavioral patterns by grade band. So if you're in elementary school, which is K to 6, because you're part of the Caribbean or Central America, K to 6, elementary school, you're looking at frequent meltdowns, difficulty transitioning between activities, clinging to adults, hitting, biting, inability to focus, often signal anxiety. All of this often signal anxiety, developmental needs, or attachment issues. That's what they're saying, all of this, if you're in elementary school. If you're in the middle part of, so upper elementary and into high school, we call it middle school here in the US, social withdrawal, increased defiance, identity testing behaviors, and dramatic peer conflicts. What do these tell us? They tell us that often the turbulent developmental period of early adolescence. That's what it's telling us. like what we talk about with Eric Erickson, stages of development. If you read Eric Erickson's stages of development, you will see where it's identity versus identity confusion around early teenage to later teenage years and so on. They start to wonder, who am I and why are they talking to me like this? And they will talk back to you as a parent or a teacher. So you need to know how to manage that behavior with the teenagers, early teens and middle teens and late teens, when they start understanding themselves, later on. High school. Chronic absenteeism normally happen in high school. Academic disengagement, emotional flatness, meaning flat. You can't get anything out of them. And risk-taking behaviors. These are all high school, upper high school too. And these signal depression. They can be depressed, lack of future orientation. So they need mentorship and or loss of belonging, a sense of belonging. They really need genuine professional adult friendship and mentorship. They need it. So cross grade behavioral signals to watch out for. Watch out for these. You see the ones in the orange here? Look out for them, whether you're in K-12 classrooms. A sudden change in behavior from a previous engaged student. So if a student was engaged in your class, notice the change in the behavior, they're disengaged. Persistent difficulty in a specific class or with a specific teacher, pay attention to that. That's why teachers need to talk across grade levels and across subjects. They need to talk to see if there are changes in students' behavior. Repeated disciplinary referrals that show a pattern over time, and signals in terms of the signs of physical neglect or emotional distress. Pay attention to those in the students. And the last one here in the orange is increased isolation from the social group. Okay, so you need to pay attention to those and ask questions. Befriend with the friends they have so that you can keep up with the changes and the patterns. This is our job to find out what's happening with students. So let's look at some of the ones that you shared in the chat. So some people just say yes, 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 and they said sometimes looking for what do you call that now? Validation, attention, and so on. All right, so let's look at some of the ones that you talk about, you document. Improvement or decrease in the behavior, disrespectful behavior, of course, disrespectful, disruptive improvement in our, I knew this was coming in. Many of us, we only document disrespectful and disruptive behavior. But what about the other type of behavior? What about, socio-emotional behavior? What about the positive part of it? A student is doing well and so on, but typically we normally document the negatives. That's why we always say that the students who display negative behavior, normally you know their names more than the positive students, the ones who display positive behavior. And we normally know exactly who they are, the disruptive ones, than the quote unquote good students. All right. So reframing management as relationship-centered practice. So let's reframe classroom management to relationship-centered. How about that? We could reframe it, to relationship-centered practice. So let's reframe it. Classroom management is not about controlling a room. It's not. It is about creating conditions in which every student can thrive. That's what classroom management is. It's a relationship-centered practice. That's what it should be. So the reframe should be shifting from a controlled model to a relationship-centered model. It does not mean abandoning structure. You have structure and routine in your class. It means that structure is built on a foundation of trust, respect, and genuine care. And that behavioral challenges are addressed as opportunities to strengthen the relationship, not just restore order. And the research is behind it, the reframe. And you can talk about the research, the academic, social, and emotional learning, called CASEL. You can look that up. and you can talk about it some more. So let's look at the relationship-centered practices. Look, what does it look like? It looks like greeting students at the door by their name every day. Every day we're early, we greet them by their name. Knowing everything about some of the things that students are doing. You don't have to know everything about the student, but know things about them, some of the things that they're doing, so that you can talk about it. And some of them could be their family, their interests like sports or cars or little dolls or, different things that they're involved in, their church and so on. They sing on the choir, talk about it. You have to talk about academic alone, their goals, their aspirations, addressing behavior privately before publicly escalating it. So talk to the students privately, not just call them out in class. We shouldn't do that, as a matter of fact. Repairing relationships after conflict rather than simply disciplining and moving on. You know, repairing the relationship. That is restorative practice. Repair the relationship. Using culturally responsive language and acknowledging students' identities. So if they're from wherever they're from, background and so on, talk about it. They're church going, say, listen, your identity is in Christ Jesus our Lord. Your identity is you're from this family. Why do you behave like this? What is causing you to behave like this? Well, I never expected you to be like this. My expectation is for you to be a good gentleman or a nice lady. But tell me, what is causing this? How do you feel when you come here? Talk to them about it. And then the last thing is communicating belief in students' potential, especially after they make a mistake. Talk about their potential rather than dwelling on the mistake that they make. Sometimes it's just a simple mistake, or sometimes they're doing it, as we said, to get attention. But talk about the potential that they have instead of just dwelling on the present that they did when it's just probably a mild thing. Okay? So let's switch gears. Dr. Garden,
Yes, sir.
what did I do here? Did I skip over yours?
You went straight ahead. I could just give a few points and then we move to the workshop segment
No, let's talk about the compliance here.
where are we?
Compliance. Let me see.
Okay, I think
All
you
right.
moved above that.
Oh yeah, I did go to the back, but yeah, we can talk about this. Where did I go? Oh
Okay, go
man,
back to
yeah,
slide 6 then.
yeah. I really didn't see that. That my apology.
Okay. Uh we're going to be moving to the breakout groups, but I just like to just mention a few things here as we move to the next part. We want to ground us in a shift that challenges how we traditionally view classroom management. Too often, we've been trained to respond to behavior with correction first, right? But what if behavior is actually communication? So, as we collaborate and as we reflect in the breakout groups, we'll explore how what may look like compliance, disengagement, or even good behavior can sometimes mask deeper needs and emotions or even disconnections. And this is especially important for us as educators because it calls us to look beyond what students are doing and begin to understand what they may be experiencing. Dr. Dice gave some of the examples, what might be happening in the home. They might be hungry. There might be challenges on the home. They might be having trauma, etc. So as we walk through the remainder of this presentation, I invite you to reflect on your own practice. And this is not a criticism, this is a reflection. Where might you be seeing compliance but missing connection? And how might shifting from correction to connection transform not just behavior, but the overall climate in your classroom? I remember as a novice teacher, and I gave this example on numerous occasions. I might be redundant, but I want to say it again. I remember I was having an amazing interaction with my students, and they were cantankerous, and they were engaged in the lesson. And this teacher, now let me tell you a bit about this teacher. You would walk by her classroom, you could drop a pin and you could hear it. The students were so repressed, and she was a yeller. You can't make a sound in a room. She was passing my classroom as a novice teacher. The students were engaged in learning, and this woman put her head. Sorry, I'm saying this woman. Forgive me. I'm
Yes.
probably a little bit still upset after so many years. This
Yes.
lady put her head in my classroom and yelled at my student, "Be quiet and sit down." She totally disrupted what I was doing in the classroom setting. So bottom line is we've got to be discerning. We've got to a quiet classroom is not always a learning classroom. Compliance can mask disengagement. It can mask fear. And we have to really learn from the restorative practice approach that whatever the student gives to us, however the student manifests that behavior, we see it as information. What is this saying to me about this child? And we need to seek to connect with this child, build a relationship. The research says that if one adult connects with a child, even twice for the week, just how you doing, I care about you, whatever, it changes the behavior of that child. Is it easy to do? I know it's not easy. Someone might be saying there, boy, Dr. God, understand what we're dealing with. It's tough. We understand. It's just a little bit incremental change, incremental adjustment. We are not saying that you're going to turn a blind eye at the student's response or in discipline acts, but we've got to really get to a point where we start saying, "Hey, what is this student saying to me, and how can I respond to that?" So, having said that, we're going to be moving into breakout groups. So we are going to pause and reflect because this work requires us to think differently, not just to listen differently. All right. I want you to bring a real student to mind, not a hypothetical one. Often the students who frustrate us the most are the ones who need us the most, right? And in your groups, try to move past the behavior and ask, what might this student have been communicating to me? That's the mind shift that we want to make here. And there are no perfect answers here. And this is about perspective shifting. So as you share, listen for patterns, and you'll start to notice that many of us are seeing the same thing. Many of us are seeing the same thing. So, Dr. Dice, I'm going to ask you just before we go to group, take a look at slide number 9. When you go into the group, think of a student whose behavior frequently frustrates you. What might have been underneath that behavior, and what was the student possibly communicating? You may want to jot down these questions because that's what we're going to engage them in as you break out into the group. Dr. Dice is going to break out into group. So the first reflection is think of a student whose behavior frequently frustrated you, and what might have been underneath that behavior. What was the student possibly thinking? And the second reflection is um, what are 3 behaviors you regularly observe in your classroom that may actually be forms of communication rather than willful defiance? And how have you typically responded? And what might be a communication first response like that? We're going to move through this, and we're going to ask from each group. We want to have you choose a leader, and when we come back, that leader is going to take a minute to just reflect on what occurred in your breakout groups. We will be finishing on time because there's another workshop that Dr. Dice will tell you about that commences in at the end of this hour. So we are mindful of that, and some of you here, I know you probably won't be joining that work group. So Dr. Dice, I'm turning back to you to break us out on the groups, and then we will convene right after.
Yeah, sure, sure, sure. So choose somebody who will lead the discussion in your group for about 6 minutes, okay? So you're gonna be in the breakout room now. So accept the breakout room. It's about 8 people or so in a breakout room. You go in there and you share, just talk to each other in there, collaborate. You're right across about 11, 12, 13 other different countries. And share based on the questions here. We have multiple sources of how you get to that certificate of completion for your portfolio when it's time for you to develop your own skills so that you can become a master teacher in the system, whichever Ministry of Education that you're in. Okay. So welcome everybody. So this is the first workshop in a 5 workshop series, and we're going to try and hammer these out over the course of months. Later on, you will get these that are self-paced courses online in our network. So look out for that, and you can do them on your own when the time comes. All right. So what student behavior is trying to tell us? What is it trying to tell us in when we go into the classroom? You can drop in the chat as we go through the next couple of slides. What is the student behavior trying to tell us when you see students behaving in a certain way? What is it trying to tell us? What based on your experience in the classroom? And understanding students, classroom management, this is important, becomes a byproduct of connection. And we all know what byproduct is. Byproduct happen before the purpose of what you intend to do. The intention is to connect with students. And as a byproduct, management happen. Management just happen like a culture in there. So we need to tackle that problem of classroom management and twist it into a way of connection, looking at the connection instead of managing the classroom, and let the classroom management becomes a byproduct of that that culture that we create in the classroom. And so other people say they're confused. Yes, they are in need of attention and intervention. I like that word, intervention. They need love and validation. Yes, yes, yes. They're seeking love, and in general, of course, they're seeking love. Because remember, what scripture tells us about love, that we love is an action word. It's what you do to me as I would do for you. That is love. Do to me as I would do for you. That is literally love that we're embodying in the classroom. So this is our objective for just this workshop. And workshop number 1, as you see on your left side of your screen at the top, it says rethinking behavior and classroom management. That's what we're focusing on today, is to rethink behavior and classroom management, understanding the hidden language of student behavior. And we don't want to don't get us wrong here when Dr. Gordon and myself talk about this. We don't want you to, as people say, when we talk so softly about this, and we want you to cuddle the students and so on. There are procedures that, because we have tough love. Dr. Noel and I, when we get into our school, Donette? Donette, do you see the breakout room option?
No, I didn't see any. I just realized
Oh,
it's went silent, so I was waiting. Maybe I thought something went wrong.
no, 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 nothing is wrong. I'm gonna assign you.
But it's almost time already to go back, I guess.
Yes, it's about 2 more minutes or so.
So it's okay. It's okay. Something went wrong.
Okay, all right.
It's okay. Don't worry. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Oh, you were in there.
Oh, but
Oh, you were in room 2. So
okay.
it's okay.
Hmm. Can I ask you something in the meantime, please? Hello?
Tracy, and the meeting is still in progress. We're in breakout room, so everybody's coming back any moment now.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we're in breakout rooms doing some discussions.
Can I ask something in between, please?
Yeah. Ask me quickly because we're gonna switch.
Yes, what happened is I paid for I think 2 certificates, but
Mm-hmm.
I never received them. Does it take a long time?
It doesn't take a long time. Write me an email and send me the receipt.
Okay then.
Yeah. Did you
Yeah,
did you
same here for me.
did you donate yourself or somebody did it on your
I
behalf?
did it on my own.
You did it. So send me an email. I'll find your name in the system. And the next person who said same thing,
Yes, Jennifer Richards
Jennifer
Wilson.
Richard, yes. Just send me
Yeah,
an email and with one line and if you have the receipt and I'll find it quickly.
all right, thank you.
Like all of them, anyone that you didn't get. Yeah, you can send it anytime, leave them right now, and I'll look at it afterwards. All right, everybody,
Ask the
welcome
question
back.
after.
Welcome back, welcome back. Let me see. Okay, Dr. Gordon,
Yes, sir.
yeah, you can take us away. Thank you so much, everybody. It's a
Yeah.
really good discussion we heard.
Okay. I'm not able to see the chats and all of that, but we want to get a response from each one person from each group. Want to take a minute. We know that as educated, sometimes we have a lot to say, but we speak for a long time. But we're going to ask each person to just give us a quick sentence what you know your takeaway from your group conversation. Who wants to start? Group one?
Yeah, one from each group.
Yeah, group one, you want to start for us? What's your
Well, I don't
takeaway?
know. I don't know which one is group one, but for my group, we shared some of the behaviors that we observed in our classroom in terms of the students being disruptive, and we shared some of the ways in which we deal with these. We are, you know, we talk to the children one on one. We talk with the parents as well. We involve them in the whole behavior management process. So that was what we shared in our group.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Next.
All right. So let me see.
We would have discussed actually the same thing, but one thing we would have realized though is that most of the behavioral issues they stem from home. And so as teachers, we have to try to cope with it as a teacher and as a parent as well.
Yeah.
And that's so interesting. It's communicating to you that, hey, there are issues at home, and then you can't just blame the student. You have to look beyond the behavior that's being manifested and say, hey, there's something else that's contributing to this. That's beautiful. Next.
Yeah. So we just heard from group 5, room 5. So I don't see Jennifer where Jennifer is on this. So we need anybody from room 1. Anybody, you can unmute and share. See which room you're from.
Okay. Hello.
Yes, Angela, go ahead.
We discussed certain behaviors that a particular student was lashing out in our classroom. Um, we come to conclusion that it was like loneliness. I think there's loneliness he was lashing out because he's like the only child.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh,
Isn't that amazing, Doctor? Amazing. You could pick up on that. Let me quickly say I was doing chemistry in junior college, and I was as Miss Whitehead, I need this white. Miss Whitehead looked at me and said, are you the last child for your family? I was the last child, and she discovered that I was the last child because of my behavior. Just wanted to say that. So that's a good one. Okay,
yeah,
go ahead. Next.
that's very good.
My internet was having some problems, so I was added to the group late.
Okay.
However, um, I have a student. I mean, even as you were discussing, Doctor, he was just flashing in front of me. And every day I make it my habit to attend on to him personally with his, because every day is something different. And one of the biggest problem is that his mom is also a teacher in the school, and there's constant interference because there is lots of problems at home, and because the mom is trying to stifle or throw everything under the rug for it not to come out, she's also trying to control how the child express himself or whatever, and then he has these constant outbursts. And so I am constantly embracing him, reassuring him, like, I mean, he even divulged information to me, and sometimes I feel helpless because of the fact that the mom is a parent, and she's interfering. She's interfering. Do you understand? So, and the
Yes.
child, he is actually getting worse and worse. So I literally had to do an intervention and spoke with the principal, like, we got to take it, because I know this is not him. He loves school, he loves to learn, he's a good kid, but he, in his head, is like, oh, he cannot, too much is going on in his head, and he causes such disruption in the classroom that sometimes I have to really take him away. Thank God I have a trainee, but I have to take him away and do a lot of one-on-one because the outbursts are so numerous. And every day I can tell you it's something different. And he wants to tell me what's happening. He does tell me, and I can't say, he
Right.
does tell me. But if his mom only knows that he tells me, it goes to another level. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, so it's too much for their little brain to process that along with schoolwork. So it's
So,
everybody's paying the price for this behavior. I kid you not.
listen. But you know what's amazing about this is that there's hope for our future as educators, because what you have described to me, you didn't just look at the student behavior, you went beyond that and you realized that it was grounded in whatever experiences the child might have had at home, or what sort of conflicts that are taking place, and that's restorative practice. Thank you. Next.
Yeah, room 1. If we can get somebody from room 1, that would be very good. Donnet, you want to share?
Yeah, yes, I'm
Yes.
from room 2.
Oh, you're room 2. All right, go ahead.
Yes, and I was having a problem also, but
Yeah.
the student that I have uses a lot of expletives.
Okay.
It it doesn't matter who is coming, who is there, or anything. So when I talk with the parents, I talk with the guidance counselor, I spoke with the principal, and we realized that he had, I think it's a broken relationship between the mother and father. So he's getting no love from especially the mother, who we really expect would have been the one to say, come, let us see what we can do and all that. I think he also needs a community, not just one person to deal with him. And I have a very good assistant as well, and she tries her best. He's only in my class for 2 weeks because he was at a school before, and I imagine that was what was happening. And he was dismissed, but we didn't know.
Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing. Thank you for sharing good insights. We have 3 to
Yeah.
go, Dr. Dice.
No, I think we got, because
We have everybody?
yeah, we
Okay.
just need, yeah, but because of the time too, we probably have one, like room
Okay.
1, but it's okay. It's okay. It's good start.
All right. So you want me to just work on this
Yeah.
last slide, last 2
All
slides, and
right.
then we close out?
Yes.
Okay. Let's go to slide number 9, from control to the connection,
Yeah, we're on
mindset
it.
shift.
We're
So
on it,
this
yeah.
is really all about shifting our mindset incrementally. Because I can tell you, I remember when I just started teaching, there was this young woman who gave me a lot of problems in the class. I would just go to the chalkboard. Those days you use the chalk on the board. I'm dating myself now. We didn't have smart boards then. Every time she did something wrong, I would put a check beside her name. And she loved it because she got all the attention. I only found out later on that I was reinforcing the negative behavior and I needed to build a relationship with her. So because I just wanted to control my class. So the nugget here is managing behavior is temporary, but building connection is transformational. So you take a look at the slide and I'll just give my reviews. You know, this slide represents a mindset shift and it's not a checklist. And most of us were trained on the left side of of this chart, right? To the control mindset. And to be clear, that doesn't make you wrong, you know. It makes you trained. The shift is moving from how do I stop this to what is this telling me? Let me repeat that. How do I stop this to what is this telling me? And that one question can completely change your response. Connection doesn't mean permissiveness. And Dr. Dice alluded to that earlier. Connection doesn't mean permissiveness. It means addressing behavior while preserving dignity. And this is not about perfection, it's about progress, small shifts, very small shifts to create big impact. So this is basically somewhat what we're reflecting on. I just like to go to the final slide here, the takeaway from the workshop, and then I'll, if Dr. Dice's last words. Before we leave, I want to ground us in what really matters from today. If you remember nothing else, remember this: behavior is communication. Behavior is communication. And the goal is not to fix every student. Dr. Siegel, my superintendent, sat in my office one day. I was the director of guidance. I wanted to change everything in the school district. He said, Noel, you can't save everybody. You can't fix everybody. So the goal is not to fix every student, it's to see them differently. I'm not asking you, or we're not asking you to transform your entire classroom going tomorrow and just change everything overnight. We are asking you to choose one student and be intentional about it, right? How about that? Choose one student, that notorious student who's your most challenging student, and be intentional about it. One relationship can shift everything for that student and for you. Because if you are so punitive, trust me, putting a student out on suspension is not going to change anything. That student will come back to that classroom and incite all the other students. They'll sit there with their arms full and not say a word, but cause chaos in the classroom. So it's a win-lose situation when you send them out like that. As you leave, think about this. Who is the student in your classroom that might be silently struggling? And what would it look like to truly see that student? I'm going to close up with this, Dr. Dice, and then I'll turn back to you.
Yeah.
I've used this example over and over and over again. I remember this student, he was doing so poorly. He was doing so poorly in his class, and he did his homework, and I took the homework and I marked it up, and everything that was wrong, I put the red ink. You know those old days when you put the red ink beside the things that were wrong. That student took the piece of paper and he crushed it up and he threw it in the garbage bin right in front of me. He went back to his class as mad as a mad dog. And I was so convicted. I went to him afterwards. Why did you do that? He said, I tried my best and you didn't show me respect. I tried my best and you didn't show me respect. And I from that day, I started to deal with my students differently because I have to be empathetic. I leave you with this. Children must be taught how to think, not what to think. And that starts with how we choose to see them. I hope that you gleaned something from this workshop. At this time, I'll turn over back to Dr. Dice and he'll close out for us.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Gordon. So we just drop in the chat the end of workshop survey. And if you need a certificate, the link is also there. You need to complete the end of workshop survey. You need to complete it. And not just the need, we also want feedback from you on the workshop. This is just the first workshop, and the next ones, we will have a little bit more time to talk, especially in your groups where we're incorporating sessions like this with breakout rooms so people can talk, different people from different nationalities can talk to each other and share resources so we all can learn from each other. So we're doing that now in our workshops starting off this year. If you need a certificate, the link is there, but please fill out the end of workshop survey. If you're on YouTube, we also drop it in the chat on YouTube, the links for you to complete. Very importantly, as Dr. Gordon said, the important thing is that we are looking at relationships for our students to build mature and responsive and responsible relationships with adults. And that's what our purpose is in the school, is to help them to develop some sensible relationships with different people and grow into their own person. So that's what you're doing. So please fill out the end of workshop survey and you will definitely get your certificate, the end of course or end of workshop certificate of completion for the course, along with the donation of $5 to our nonprofit. It's simple, very low contribution. The other thing, very importantly, everybody, the reason why we're rushing here to finish off, we had a clash with workshops that we're promoting, and there's one going on starting like now. And I'm gonna share right now the flyer so you can put the meeting ID down and you can head over there once you're finished with the end of course workshop survey, end of workshop survey, and the link for the donation if you're going to do the donation too.